If you love classic cars, then Donald loves you.
Every car tells a story, and this car tells a few stories, all extremely interesting. This is a 2005 Subaru WRX STI. You might notice in the camera shot that I'm wearing a hat that says Audrain Youngtimers. And that's one of the stories that this Subaru tells. It's the absolute definition of a young-timer classic. The phrase comes from the German collector car market, where collector cars, vintage cars, are referred to as old-timers. Old-timer in the German collector car vernacular refers to an antique car, anything that we would view as a classic. Something 25, 30 years old or older, 1950s, pre-war. But there was also a need for another phrase to embrace cars that were newer than that, but still were very interesting and worthy of attention in the collector car market. And the term was young-timers, since they weren't old. And it's a phrase that's caught on, and it's a phrase that describes cars that were built 10 to 15 years earlier. And it proves the maxim that is the catchphrase of Audrain Youngtimers, collecting moving forward. Because when you think about it, most of us became involved with collector cars on some level, or cars on some level, because really interesting cars that we found that fascinated us were used cars, the interesting used cars, cars from 10 or 15 years before the current production. And the same is true today. Interesting cars were being built back in the late 1990s and the early 2000s, and today they are recognized as cars worthy of attention, and hence young-timer status. Another story that this car tells is one of competition cars for the street. And of course, the Subaru WRX was an absolute king of World Rally Championship. Between the time that the WRX debuted in World Rally in 1993 and when it was withdrawn in 2005, Subaru won 3 Constructors' Championships and 3 Drivers' Championships with various versions of the WRX. And it really established Subaru as something far more than the maker of practical economy cars. And it also is very interesting because, as the former owner of another one of this type of car, a Lancia Delta Integrale, I can certainly say that there are few things that beat for fun driving an all-wheel drive rally-derived car on the street. And whatever your perception of a Subaru is, whether it's sort of an outback wagon driving through Vermont somewhere, I think that they are absolutely dispelled the second you get into this car. For one thing, this is not an inexpensive car when new, but it certainly feels like a really well-built, high-class car. This example is not low mileage. It's got about 46,000 miles on it, but it's absolutely tight as a drum. And the thing that's most impressive about this car, of course, it's an all-wheel drive vehicle with an adjustment for the balance of the differential to full lock, to a variety of front to rear placement. And the power is instantaneous. There's something about an all-wheel drive performance car that just gives you such confidence. Not to do anything foolish, but you just know that this car is going to do exactly what you want it to do at all times. It has such an incredibly linear feeling as well. There's no lag in the power. The power band is even, it's strong. You can sort of lug the car around in a high gear at a low speed, it will tolerate it. It doesn't want it, but it will tolerate it. And then when you put your foot in, it really wants to go. Another story that this car tells is one of what this market is made of. What are the passion points that connect people to cars like this Subaru WRX? It's partly the fact that people saw these cars do amazing things in World Rally Championships, and you sit behind the wheel and you feel a little bit like Petter Solberg or one of his compatriots while you're driving it. But also, it appealed to an entirely new generation of enthusiasts. Those who grew up playing the great video games. This car is a great feature in Forza Motorsport, and the idea that you can blast around on a real world road in a car that you've just driven on some of the world's greatest rally stages and roads is terrific. It's literally bringing dreams to life. And I think that's one of the great points of appeal of a car like this. Dynamically, it's brilliant. I think that you could arguably have an entire stable of four-wheel drive World Rally Championship derived cars, and you could get such a thrill out of every one of them, and the very different characteristics they have. When you think about having over 300 horsepower at your command in a car based on an economy sedan, and also I love the fact that in a world of silhouette racing, that Subaru, Lancia, these other companies went racing with four-door sedans is, I think, absolutely wonderful. You know, I'm a real sedan and GT guy, not one for the flashy roadsters, but this is absolutely amazing. So with this car I can have my cake and eat it too. Grocery getting never felt so entertaining as it does in a Subaru WRX STI. As a matter of fact, I'd go get groceries I didn't even need or want just to drive this car. And it also passes quite brilliantly the ever famous Donald Osborne, would I drive this car cross-country test? Absolutely! I think it would be an absolute blast to do. Comfortable, fast, fun, and of course, it's got a huge honking rear wing and a giant hood scoop that actually mean business. They're not there for show, they're there for go. This is a fabulous car.